Hi everybody and welcome back to Real American Cougar. I want to let you know I'm so thankful for the response that I've got over our my first video. I couldn't believe the views, the comments, the support. I couldn't believe how many people got a hold of me on the Facebook site. I'm very happy to be sharing something with you that interests you and something that you can take to heart and something you can have fun with. And that's the main thing, having fun and learning a little bit along the way maybe, but I want to center on having fun. Today's episode is called Outing Myself. I don't know if it'll be so much fun, but we'll try to make it fun. But first off, I do have some fun things to do. I want to say thanks to a few people that have been a very good support, been behind me all the way since it started. Some of them are just new people that have joined the Facebook page and watched the video and have given me a lot of encouragement and are looking forward for more videos. And the first person that I want to mention is Chris Gustafson. Chris has been a friend of mine for a very long time. She and I have hung out together for a long time. Had a lot of good times. She's been my Facebook friend and my real life friend for a long time, been very supportive. And I want to say that Chris Gustafson, I love you, you know it, and you are a Real American Cougar charter member. Thank you, Chris. Cynthia Nadine Juba. That's quite a name, isn't it? Cynthia Nadine Juba. This is my cousin Cindy. Cindy was very instrumental in talking about things and talking about getting this off the ground and the idea that I had. She is another Real American Cougar. She's a mature lady that because of her circumstances, she's still dating. She knows what it's like. She knows the real story. She's been encouraging me on everything. I just love you because she's a Real American Cougar charter member. Mr. Brian K. Person Sr. Mr. Brian K. Person Sr. Has been my neighbor for several years, and he was a good neighbor, and I moved away, and he's still my neighbor. He has watched my video. He wanted to make sure when it was coming on so we could watch it. He got a hold of me on Facebook right away to let me know what he thought of it. I really value his opinion. He's been a wonderful neighbor. He's a wonderful friend. Thank you for your service, sir. This is a Real American Cougar. Very honorable mention, Mr. Brian K. Person Sr. Lisa Marie. Lisa Marie is a new friend that I met through Facebook and through this project. I love your posts, Lisa. I love your comments. And I found a new friend in Lisa, and she's a Real American Cougar charter member. Mr. Bruce Walls. Mr. Bruce Walls is a longtime friend of mine. He is a very smart man. I would trust him with my very life. He's the only person I would trust with my very life outside of my family. He has encouraged me all the way with this project. He has not laughed at me. He never lets me forget that I am a Real American Cougar. He has given me his opinions, which mean a lot to me. And he's just a very good friend that's always been behind me, somebody I can trust. I thank you for your service, sir. Mr. Bruce Walls, he's a Real American Cougar, very honorable mention. Tamara Ottaway. What are friends for? Tamara's my bestie. We've been besties for quite a while. She is also a mature woman who is kind of getting through life, trying to make it the best way she can. She calls to make sure that she knows when my video is coming on so she can watch it. She gives me a lot of good critique about it. I can trust her critique. I can take it. She wants to be one of the first people to even watch my videos. She's been a friend day in, day out, good and bad. I love my bestie, Tamara Ottaway, Real American Cougar charter member. Kathleen Lee Sims. Kathleen is a Real American Cougar Facebook, one of the first ones to like the page, one of the first ones to comment, and one of the first ones to let me know that she enjoyed the episode and she's looking forward to more. And I'm looking forward to sharing more with you, Kathleen. Kathleen Lee Sims. She is a Real American Cougar charter member. And guys, I gotta have a drink of water. because I'm only human too. All right, next, this is a good one. Kelly Lane Myers. Kelly Lane Myers was one of the very first people to like the Real American Cougar page, message, and become a follower of the page. Kelly, when first I started on the page, he thought it was a chat line for cougars. I let him know it wasn't a chat line for cougars, and he was still okay with that. And he still became a fan. And I really think that's pretty nice of him. And I really am enjoying getting to know people that want to know a different opinion or look at a different side of things. And Kelly Lane Myers, thank you. You are a Real American Cougar Charter following member. Joanna Dahlbeck. Joanna Dahlbeck has sent wonderful love and good vibes to the universe for me for quite some time now, even before I started this project. She's a wonderful lady. She is always giving me support. She's always given me her special kind of love over Facebook, on messaging, whenever I can see her, which is not very often. We're both very busy women. But Joanna Dahlbeck, Real American Cougar Charter member. And last but not least, I have to mention Mr. Scott Edward Jones. Scott Edward Jones, thank you, Scott, for supporting Real American Cougar in the way that only you can. Scott has earned a distinguished title of most comments received on one video by one single person. So that's something to be proud of. But thank you for your support, Scott, and thank you for your service, sir. You are a Real American Cougar, very honorable discharge. Thank you, Scott. So today we're going to talk about outing myself. I have a lot of things to talk about, how things started, where this all began. First, I'm doing my plug of the week. The plug of the week this week is Right Home Improvement. Right Home Improvement is a construction group. They specialize in concrete, patios, driveways. One thing that I like about Right Home Improvement is that they're not happy until you're happy. The job that they do, they take great pride in. It makes them quite satisfied when their customers are satisfied. That's a good work ethic, I think. And I would recommend them to you. If you need some concrete or driveway or patio work done, their number 716-463-3332. That's Right Home Improvement. That's this week's Business of the Week. All right, let's get down to business about outing myself. I will let you know how I grew up. All the things that happen to you when you grow up, the different memories that you make and the different things that you learn and how you learn about life really makes a difference as time goes on. Sometimes you don't realize that, but it's true. But I'll tell you how I got started out, and I'm going to show you some pictures of myself from when I was adorable. This is when I was 1 year old. I was an adorable little fat, roly-poly little baby there. I was quite happy, as you can see. Totally oblivious. Those were the days. And I was born in New York State, and I didn't ever realize anything about where I was born. We moved a lot. My family moved a lot. My father was a minister. He is in a Pentecostal holiness denomination for 62 years. We moved quite a bit. So at that age, I'm not sure where I was even living. My mother told me somewhere in New York, I think, but I am not sure where that is even. Here in this picture, I was 2. I was 2 years old. I'm not sure where we were living then. It may have been New York. It may have been Pennsylvania. I am not sure. 2 years old. Still look like a deer in the headlights, you know. Everything is a miracle to a child. 2 years old. Now this is when I started getting a real personality here. And this is I can probably remember from the time I was 3. This is when I was 3. As a matter of fact, this is at my 3rd birthday party. This was at my grandmother's house, and all my aunts and uncles were there, and I had a special little hat with a 3 on it, and a special dress, and a special cake, and everything was special at that age. Everything was special. I had my family there. My boyfriend at the time, I can remember my boyfriend at the time, he was there. He was my uncle's farmhand. His name was Sidney, and he was my boyfriend. And when I'd go out to my uncle's farm, I was little things. So Sidney, my uncle had a big German Shepherd, and Sidney would put me up on the back of the dog, and then we'd walk around, and the dog would walk around, and I'd ride on the dog, and Sidney would walk around the farm with me. And those were really good memories. I've had some really good memories. I've had some not so good memories. So I'm not sure, when I was 3 there, I'm not sure where we were living. I think we were living in Pennsylvania. The first place that I can remember living is a place in Pennsylvania. My father had a church. That's the only home I remember. It was toward the middle of the state, probably toward the western middle of the state. There was myself and my brother, my older brother. Everything was church. Our house was connected to the church. The churchyard was our yard to play in. Everything was good. Christmases were wonderful. Everything I can remember was good. I do remember at that age, and I think it was before I even started school, because my brother was at school and I was home, but I do remember seeing on television the death of President John F. Kennedy. That's how long ago that was. I can remember seeing that on television. Things were not so bad. I ran around, I played, I had a good time. School started. I made friends at school. I went to a school that was quite mixed. Back in that time, that was unusual, but I had black friends, white friends. We didn't know any different. We had fun. We went to school. I was 5 when I went to school. Back then, there wasn't kindergarten, and I turned 6 in November. So I started first grade when I was 5. And I did pretty well. I can't ever remember my mom and dad sitting home teaching me the alphabet or teaching me how to write my name or doing a lot of things that parents do now to get their kids ready for school. I don't remember a lot of that. But I do remember going to first grade, and I loved it. I loved school. I did well. Was always musical. My family was always musical. Musical was a big part of everything, especially being part of the church. There was a lot of musical things that went on. So in the first grade, I was selected to be in a musical production, and it was a Christmas production, and I had to get on a bus, and I had to ride all the way to where we practiced, and I had to come back to the school, and usually it took all day. Some days I missed school completely because I went on the bus to do the musical production. I must have been doing okay because I was one of the kids that was scheduled to be able to go, and my parents allowed me to go. So I went and I was in this musical production, and that was a lot of fun. And I had my first friends, my first ever school friends were there. And then later that year in the first grade, we moved. We moved to another place in Pennsylvania, down toward the southern border of Pennsylvania. I had to start a new school, and I had to meet new friends. And it was kind of hard because the place I had left was the only place I could remember living in for, at that time, my entire life. So when we moved to the new place, we had to make new friends, and we had to get used to a new place, a new life. One thing about being a minister, my father never made it to the Crystal Cathedral. He worked with more common people. He wanted to help people who really needed things and needed support. There wasn't a lot of money in his position. My mother worked. We didn't have a lot of money. We weren't well-heeled at all. My parents worked and did what they could to support us. And I wear this little spoon right here. And I'll tell you about this little spoon that I wear. This little spoon is just a silver look-alike spoon on a little black cord. And they talk about people being born with a silver spoon in their mouth. That saying comes from people who could afford to have silver spoons. Silver was more expensive back in the Victorian days. People who were more well-heeled had silver. Silver spoons went into the babies' mouths when the babies were sick because silver has antibacterial properties. So whenever their children would be sick, these people had silver in the house and silver spoons, and they would let the baby play with it and lick the spoon and put it in its mouth. And any infection that they might have, respiratory infection or some kind of throat infection, they could not easily, I guess it wasn't that easy, it'd probably take a lot of spoon, but it would cure that. It would cure that. And so that's where born with a silver spoon in your mouth came from. I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth. However, and this spoon is not silver, but however, this spoon reminds me of how far I've come in all this time. So I like it. It reminds me that I've worked hard and I've come a long way. But back at the beginning, I was brought up in a very strict, very sheltered household. There were rules to everything, according to what you looked like, what you said, how you acted, the clothes you wore, the places you went. There was rules for everything. I can remember going to school, and my mother she worked. We always had nice new clothes, Easter clothes, Easter bonnets, Easter shoes, nice new clothes. Sometimes we wore secondhand clothes. They were always clean. They weren't always what the style was at the time. So I can remember wearing clothes to school that were a little outdated, and I would get a little bit of flack from a few of my friends at school about what I would be wearing to school. One of my friends at school used to pick on me all the time about my clothing. She didn't have to worry about clothing. She was the only child of a family that had a good business, and she wore very nice clothes. And she just, at the time, wasn't a very nice person. Somehow there was a rule that for my clothes, and this was in the 70s when mini skirts and shorts and hot pants and sizzle dresses were coming out, the rule was I had to stand up and put my arms at my sides. And wherever the longest finger of my hand reached to on my side of my thighs was how long my dresses had to be. Now, I don't know if that's a rule in the Pentecostal Holiness Holy Roller rule book or not, but that was the rule then. So that's what I grew up with. And I would go to school, and it's one particular girl, same girl, that picked on me about all my clothes. And she picked on me about all my clothes, I think, every year that I went to school in that area. We were there for 8 years. That was kind of like home. Every year I went to school, she picked on me about my clothes. And was right in front of everyone. She didn't care. She'd talk about everybody and talk about me right in front of everyone. And I've since friended her on Facebook in the last few years. I think that's my way of kind of forgiving her for, for being a bully at school. I forgive her for being a bully at school. If she's listening, she might know that I'm talking about her. Well, I forgive you for being a bully at school, okay? So there were a lot of things. Wherever I went was monitored. It was a big discussion at home for me to be able to go to a baseball game at my own school and just hang out with my friends. There were places you didn't go. There were things you didn't do. Life was getting through every day. It was survival then. My dad, he was a good man. My mom was a good man. My dad being a minister, I'm not putting down religion. I am not putting down the way that I was raised. I was learned to learn right from wrong, for sure. My dad was a good man. He loved people. I know that he prayed for me every day, and I needed it, and I still need it. I wish he was still around. I miss my dad. He was the love of my life when I was this age. I was always going to marry my dad when I was 3, 4, 5, I was going to marry Dad. But he was a good man. I know he had a main line to God. I've seen miracles happen when he prayed. So I'm not putting down religion. I'm really not. But some people don't realize the environment that you live in when you're brought up a certain way. So this was very sheltered. I didn't learn a whole lot about life in general. I learned more about the Bible, treat people well, use the golden rule. Those are all good things. What to do to prepare yourself for your life after this life. And that was mostly it. We had a good home life. Mom cooked when she could. She worked. She wasn't around a lot. I took a lot of responsibility early in age because Mom wasn't around a lot. My older brother was supposed to watch us quite a bit. He would take off and do whatever he wanted. So then there was me. Before we moved, my mother had my sister. She is 6 years younger than I am. And then a year and a half after she was born, my little brother was born. So he is 7 years younger than I am. So when my brother would bug off and do whatever he wanted to do, I would pretty much be there watching the kids. So I had a lot of responsibility at a young age. I had a lot of rules to tend to. I had a lot of responsibility at a young age. I knew one way to live. I knew one way to live. And that way was survive. Survive every day. Do what you had to do. Do what you had to do to save this life. Do what you had to do to save your spiritual life. Do what's right, not what's wrong. A lot of shame-based things growing up. A lot of shame-based things growing up. Because it was right or it was wrong. And that was my teaching, right or wrong. So that's where I started. That's how I got my idea of my outlook on life. That changed my entire outlook on life, growing up that way. So that's the beginning. That's the beginning. That's where I came from. I'll talk more, and I do have another video that's going to be coming out about how people form their ideas, how people form connections with people. I'll talk a little bit more about how my life went and how I ended up the way I am on another episode, but that's enough for now. Please get a hold of me if you want to message me and tell me your story. I have some stories coming up. I thank you for messaging. Thank everybody that has participated with my first video. I appreciate it. I do want to remind you that Right Home Improvements will be ready to work on your concrete driveway or patio and make it nice just the way you want it. Don't forget about Right Home Improvements. And don't forget to tune in because more videos are coming from Real American Cougar. More of my stories coming and more interesting, fun information is coming. Peace out.